Here is something else that is a big story that dropped, and had it been for any other day, would have led with this story for sure. Because the Spider-Verse movies are some of the best animated movies, best movies I've seen in a long time. Oscar nominated, Oscar winning. People love these movies, highly anticipated. So this news, not the best. The third Spider-Verse movie, will it be pushed to 2027? The planned third film in the Spider-Verse franchise has reportedly been significantly delayed. The Insider, Jeff Snyder, has posted a bombshell report claiming that Sony Pictures has reportedly scrapped most of the work done on the film so far to creative reasons. The report indicates the film is now unlikely to be released before 2027, and the production team is apparently relieved by the scrapping, as it will now give them more time to work on the film. The delay also gets the film out of the way of a fourth live-action Spider-Man, which seems to be targeting a 2026 release after word today of destined Daniel Cretton's hiring as director and an early 2025 start of filming. It also means the third Spider-Verse will arrive a full year after the last year's sequel, which ended on a cliffhanger. Last month, actor Karan Soni, who plays Pavatir, Spider-Man in India, said voice recording was slated to begin on Beyond and in a few months, and the film was deep in production. Also, last month came word that Sony Pictures Television was not renewing their overall deal with Spider-Verse filmmakers Phil Lord and Chris Miller, and there had been alleged clashes over budgets regarding the upcoming Spider-Noir series. The franchise, which was soaring on the success of Across the Spider-Verse early last summer, found itself under scrutiny since a report at Vulture hit last June. That report went into Lord and Miller's controversial managerial style, with sources claiming unsustainable working conditions and a relentless kind of revisionism. It does get results, though. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse made $691 million from a $150 million budget and had a stunning reviews at a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, an update from September 10th, the franchise's composer, Daniel Pemberton, has dismissed the report, saying on X, "Would you ever believe there could sometimes be stuff on the internet that might not be particularly accurate?" So, what the hell do you make of all of that? Now, after that whole big report, the composer goes, "I don't believe everything you hear." So, Roxy, I'll start with you. You hear this report, you hear this sniffing around, and Jeff's usually pretty accurate on what he's heard so far. Do you think that this gets pushed to 2027, that far back from the last movie?
Yeah, subscribe to his newsletter because I love reading. He drops so much great stuff there, the Snyder. But then we did hear, so like you said, the composer, he said, "Would you ever believe there could be sometimes stuff on the internet that might not always be particularly accurate?" But that's not really a denial of what he said. They said that might not always be particularly accurate. I think that, number one, I actually don't care when this movie comes out. If it comes out in 2027, great. I just want to see the best version of the movie, and I want the people to be treated as well as they possibly can. And if people are getting paid for their time and the movie is excellent, if it's 2027, that's totally fine by me. But it is interesting the way that we are talking about this franchise as opposed to after the first movie came out, when we were like, this movie is stellar. It is so unbelievable. This looks just perfect. No animated movie has ever looked better. And now it's like, ooh, what's going on set here? How are we treating the people? There's been a lot of issues seemingly going on. What are they using this time for? Do we trust this? But we love the movies, so the conversation is just totally turned.
Yeah, and Chris Miller actually just responded and said nothing's been scrapped. Reels are coming along just nicely. So, I mean, Mike, I feel that if that's the case, if it was going to get delayed and they were scrapping stuff, Miller coming out and saying, no, that's not true, could have major egg on his face if it turns out, because especially with differences, haven't been shy of staying silent, I should say, when it came to look at the Solo stuff. They pretty much went along with everything that people were saying. I bet you once they finally are able to speak about what went down there, that's going to be a complete and utter S show, if you will. But, Miller responds. What do you think?
I don't know. I'm torn on this because I know the first one was by itself, but didn't they, and correct me if I'm wrong, after that first one and they were like going forward, like we had a planned trilogy, I thought 2 and 3 were going to shoot back to back, and like they knew what they were doing. Like it was.
I think they still know what they're doing. The
second one came out. What's up?
I said I think they still know what they're doing. It's just as they mentioned in that report.
Do they?
Yes, because I think what happened was that the fit hit the shan, if you will, when they you never heard that before?
Is that because we're live? Is that why you keep doing that?
Yeah, but have you never heard fit hit the shan? You've never heard that before?
No, I've never heard that.
And I owe you an apology, but we'll do that afterwards.
I know that was a great moment in my life.
Yes, but we'll do that afterwards. But Mike, the main thing that they mentioned in this report was all the stuff that went down with the graphics people and the editors
working
and
conditions. On
the working conditions. I think that they were going back to back, and I think then they were like, hold back here. People's heads are going to fall off. They're exhausted. Cut it out.
Right. Okay. But still, okay. So let's look at that. So all that comes out, and I think it came out because they were rushing towards the end of the film, like to finish the second one. And then the second one comes out, massive hit, and they're like, we're going to take some time. We're going to slow down a little bit and redo things. But that doesn't change the fact that the story still, even if these guys are busting their ass and trying to get the most incredible work, and because the animation is just insane, the story is still the story. Like the animators that are animating it, that's not changing the story. They're animating what's being given. So I thought this story is there. Like I thought they know what they're doing. They had the actors set to record dialogue. So clearly they had the script ready to go. So as you say, something stonks.
Well, but I don't know if it does though, because it depends on, and it depends.
If you're just going, hey, our animators are dying, we got to slow down. One theory, I think that the studio goes, we'll hire another studio and add another studio on. Because on animated films, lots of different studios work on, someone handling the action. And I could see them going, we'll just hire more people and keep working them. But and maybe Lord Miller, like, no, slow down. It seems like they're going, changing story and changing.
Well, yeah,
it
depends.
They have to scrap sequences.
It depends on this report, right? The report that it says that if the report is that this has not gone as planned, and that there are going to be a lot of changes, and they are not going to be out until 2027, then Mike, you got something to that, to where they don't know what the hell the story is, or what happened. They bounce back and forth. But if you go off of what Miller just wrote, and the fact that no, everything's going according to plan, it just animation takes a little longer, especially when you're trying to ease up on your crew. When you get that kind of, you don't want an Ellen situation. You know what I mean?
I mean, it just seems, and I know like in animation, the little bit that I do know, like a lot of your assets are already built. So it's kind of like a video game where your assets are there. And I know, it seems like every movie they do these giant quantum leaps forward with what we're seeing, and they're explaining new things, and maybe they're wanting to try new things. I think, like Roxy said, give the time. But also, I'm of the minority that I think the first one is better. I think ending on a cliffhanger like they did was a real mistake in the fact that it wasn't coming out within a year.
Yeah. If
you're going to end on a cliffhanger like that, you got to pull it back to the future.
I don't disagree with you.
And do it 6 months later and just get it all out there. Because I think these films has the potential to be the best trilogy of all time if they stick the landing.
I think they will. I think
even out of live action. I'm saying better than live action. I think trilogy, when we talk about the best trilogies of all time, this has the potential to be the best trilogy of all time if they stick it.
What did you think of the first Dune ending?
Oh, he didn't like either one of those movies.
I'm going to tell you about, Roxy, you want to know about Dune?
No, don't ask him.
And I say this with the utmost respect. Yeah, I think they are masterful films, incredibly acted, every attention to detail, sound, design, costume, lighting, score, everything is 100% incredible. I felt no attachment to any single character, and I was just like, this is fine.
So you don't like cliffhangers, really?
No, I love a cliffhanger if it's going to get resolved within a decent amount of time, and I'm invested.
So what about like House of the Dragon or
Severance? No, he doesn't watch good things.
No.
Okay. Yeah, I think I've just been so trained to cliffhangers be what they are, and sometimes I have to wait multiple years on shows.
4 years?
Well,
that's a lot. I mean, you changed.
Aquaman came out 4 years.
But that wasn't a cliffhanger. That was not like, hey, Miles is stuck. Come back in 5 years and see where he is. It's like,
it's tough on cliffhangers.
You guys, you have to think about also this. Think of it in let's say 4 or 5 years in a span. You just mentally, as a person, change. You some things you're into anymore, some things you're not into anymore. You go through you change as a person. especially, younger people, and they're like at the age they're so invested in, and they're like, when they come back, it's like, I don't watch Spider-Man anymore. It's, and again, they've won the goodwill of people because these two films are so good. And I'm sure when the hype comes out, when the film starts ramping up and marketing, that people are going to be back into it. But it's like, imagine Infinity War, and then you had to wait 5 years for Endgame.
I
hear you. Perfect example, Infinity War and Endgame. That thing was
timed out perfectly. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think you're right that when it comes to cliffhangers, because people forget fast, especially because there's just so much stuff out there now too, right?
It is.
There's just so much that people do forget. And I think there's another movie recently, I can't remember what it was, but it's like, it's not coming out. I mean, look, even movies without a cliffhanger. Look at, we'll bring up Star Wars again. Star Wars is 2019 since that last movie that you're paying $4.2 billion for a franchise. And it's like, where's that?
Maybe, were you thinking Batman 2?
Batman 2's one that also getting pushed. Yeah, but there are other,
and the fact that you've got a new DC universe with a new Batman soon, and they're
pushing it
again.
You
got this little kind of penguin that's going to kind of satiate you for a little bit.
But I think that's more important than you think, because I think that's going to be a big, really big show from what everyone's saying.
No, I understand. I'm.
Well, okay. Say there are only two options, though. And I'm not saying there are, but one, you lose momentum and you put out a great movie, or two, you rush a movie, but you have that momentum. I would rather lose momentum, put out a great movie, than rush the movie and then have it not be as good.
I guess. I mean, I was always, what weirded me out with these movies, the Spider-Verse, was the fact that it wasn't the same directors from the first and the second one. They brought completely new people in. So that was jarring to me.
Yeah.
Well, why I did like the first one better.
But you still like the second one, Mike?
I loved it. I thought it was great.
Well, how about that? What do you guys think? There's a lot of things that happened during this actual news. Miller writes out and says, no, still coming out. Do you think that it's going to come out in 2027? Is it going to come out in 2026? Does it tie in? Because they've kind of tried to tie into all of the Spider-Man stuff. Will it tie into this Spider-Man 4? Is that one of the reasons that maybe they're having conversations with the MCU to say, let's push back something so we can time this out a little bit? Put your comments in there. Tell us exactly what you think.